Live from the BDN Studios, it's Bang and Dang.
That's awesome.
If you don't like that, then
You ain't black.
Welcome back to Outlaws, Gunslingers, Mafia Edition with your hosts, Bang and Dang. And here we are, wrapping up the Genovese crime family, finally. After a legit 2 months of covering everybody and anybody, we will be covering the last of the anybody's and everybody's. Got a couple more underbosses to cover before we get into the current members, and we'll take a look at some of the snitches. That not only from the Genovese family, but also that implicated Genovese family members. So, which there's not really that many of them. Genoveses were usually pretty tight, as we've seen some of these episodes. That's why this episode has to be a bunch of people put together, because the rest of these people had no story but what you see everywhere. Anytime you look up these guys, it's literally the same info. We got a lot of people, so just bear with us on this one, guys. You've heard this name 100 times on our episodes. Anthony Fat Tony Salerno. He was the underboss and a front boss of the crime family from 1981 until his conviction in the Mafia Commission trial, I believe, in 86. He was born and raised in East Harlem, New York. In his youth, he became involved in gambling, numbers, loan sharking, and protection rackets for the Luciano family, which later became known as the Genovese. He was a member of the 116th Street crew headed by Michael Trigger Mike Coppola. Salerno climbed the family ranks by controlling a possible $1 million a year numbers racket operation in Harlem and a major loan sharking operation. In 1948, Coppola fled to Florida to escape murder charges, and Salerno took over the crew.
Oh, look at that shit.
He said, "It's mine now."
Worked out for him, right? 1959, Salerno was a secret financial backer of a heavyweight boxing match at New York's Yankee Stadium between Swedish boxer Ingmar Johansson and American boxer Floyd Patterson. Wasn't that Pretty Boy Floyd? No? No charges were filed against Salerno, though. Salerno divided his time between a home in Miami Beach, Florida, also a 100-acre estate and horse farm in upstate Rhinebeck, New York, the Palma Boys Club in East Harlem, and his apartment in upscale Gramercy Park section of Manhattan. Sure. Salerno served as a consigliere, underboss, and acting boss of the old famous Genovese crime family.
He sure did. By the 60s, he controlled the largest numbers racket operation in New York, grossing up to $50 million per year. Holy shit.
It's ridiculous.
Salerno kept his headquarters at the Palma Boys Social Club in East Harlem and continued to work in these areas. The FBI accused him of heading a bookie and a loan shark network that grossed $1 million annually. Well, they were a little off.
Right.
Salerno hired Roy Cohn as his attorney. He must be a popular guy, huh?
Look at that shit.
April 20th, 1978, Salerno was sentenced to 6 months in federal prison for illegal gambling and tax evasion. Early 81, after his release, he suffered a mild stroke and retreated to his Rhinebeck estate to recuperate.
Oh.
At the time of his stroke, Salerno was a Genovese underboss.
Yeah. After Salerno's recovery from a stroke on the 31st of March, 1981, the death of Genovese front boss Frank Tiatti.
We'll have him coming up here in a second.
Frank Tiatti, Salerno succeeded him as becoming the boss. He finally gets to be the boss. Although law enforcement at the time thought that Salerno
Front
was...
boss.
Huh?
Front boss.
Yeah, the front boss, sorry. Although law enforcement thought that Salerno was the boss of the Genovese family, it was an open secret in New York mafia circles that Salerno was merely a frontman for the real boss, who everybody knows was Vincent the Chin Gigante, who we just did a few episodes back. Jack. For instance, Alphonse Deaco, they call him Little L, later became acting boss of the Lucchese crime family before turning informer. He told investigators that when he became Lucchese made man in 1982, he was told that Gigante was the boss of the Genovese family.
Clearly. Ever since the death of the real boss, Vito, in 1969, the real family leader had been Benny Squint Lombardo, old Philly. Over the years, Lombardo used several front bosses to hide his real status from law enforcement, a practice that continued when Gigante took over the family when Lombardo retired in 81. February 25th, 1985, Salerno and 8 other New York bosses on the Mafia Commission were indicted in the Mafia Commission trial. October 86, Fortune magazine named the 75-year-old Salerno as America's top gangster in power, wealth, and influence, which clearly they were wrong.
Right, clearly wrong.
I mean, I'm sure he was still... I mean, you're the front boss. You still got some shit, right?
Making some money. For this very reason, he was the lead defendant in the trial. Many of Zoiva's disputed Salerno's top ranking. claiming that law enforcement greatly exaggerated his importance to bring attention to their legal case against him. Salerno's bail request was denied. His attorneys appealed the decision all the way to the United States Supreme Court. However, the United States versus Salerno, the Supreme Court ruled that he could be held without bail because of his potential danger to the community. Along with other defendants of the trial, Salerno pleaded not guilty on the 1st of July, 1985.
Well, all the way in November 1986, he was convicted on RICO charges.
Oh, shit.
January 13th, 1987, he was sentenced, along with 6 other defendants, to 100 years in prison without parole and fined $240,000.
You can blame Rudy Giuliani for that.
Exactly. While awaiting the Mafia Commission trial, Salerno was indicted on a separate trial, March 21st, 1986, in a second federal racketeering indictment, which accused him of having hidden controlling interests in S&A Concrete Company and Transit Mix Concrete Corp.
Yeah, makes sense.
In the construction of Mount Sinai School of Medicine, Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, and the Trump Tower.
Senor Duck.
And guess what? There's many more. Like I said, buildings in the 60s, 70s, 80s didn't go through nobody before they went to the Mafia.
I believe
and that includes the World Trade Center.
Giuliani and Trump were part of this trial, weren't they? As like witnesses or something?
Maybe.
Salerno was also accused of illegally aiding the election of Roy Lee Williams.
Giuliani would have been, because he was like wasn't he like the DA or something at this time? Prosecutor, at least? Something like that.
Salerno was also accused of illegally aiding the election of Roy Lee Williams to the national presidency of the Teamsters Union. He also pleaded not guilty on all charges, though. October 1988, he was convicted and sentenced 70 years in prison, including a $376,000 fine. He can care less about that damn fine.
Right.
And he was ordered to forfeit half of the racketeering proceeds, estimated to be $30 million. Just half. He gets to keep the rest.
Yes.
1986, shortly after his conviction in the commission trial, Salerno's longtime right-hand man, Vincent the Fish Scafaro, he turned informant, told the FBI that Salerno had never been the real boss of the Genoveses, but he was just merely a front for Gigante. Scafaro also revealed that Genovese family had been keeping this up since 1969. He's like, dude, you guys don't even know.
So he should have got off then.
Right?
Stupids. FBI Bug had captured a conversation in which Salerno and Capo Matty the Horse
We had him last week.
were reviewing a list of prospective candidates to be made in another family. Frustrated that the nicknames of the wannabes hadn't been included, Salerno shrugged and said, "I'll leave this up to the boss," a clear sign that he was not the real leader.
Clearly.
However, according to the New York Times organized crime reporter Selwyn Robb, even though prosecutors erred in billing Salerno as the Genovese boss, this mistake would not have jeopardized his conviction at the commission trial or his 100-year sentence. Why?
Right. Sure.
In his book, Five Families, Robb noted that Salerno had been tried and convicted for specific criminal acts, not for being a boss.
Oh, okay.
That's true.
Makes sense. After his conviction...
But he got convicted on a RICO, though.
After his conviction and imprisonment, Salerno's health deteriorated due to his diabetes. I got my diabetes. And it is suspected he had prostate cancer. Like they didn't know. 27th July, 1992, Anthony Salerno died tragically at the Medical Center for Federal Prisoners in Springfield, Missouri. Salerno was buried at the St. Raymond Cemetery in the Throg's Neck section of the Bronx. Salerno was portrayed by Paul Sorvino in the film Kill the Irishman in 2011.
Paul Sorvino, otherwise known as Paulie in Goodfellas.
Yeah, great stuff. And also he was portrayed by Dominic Lombardozzi in the film The Irishman in 2019. Still haven't watched that movie. It's like 4 hours long.
It's good. Yeah, that's old Salerno. Moves us on to Daniel Pagano, who is he is a mobster, so he's still alive.
Wait, it's Kill the Irishman and The Irishman like related?
No. Daniel Pagano. He's a mobster and a capo in the Genovese family who was involved in a famous gasoline bootlegging racket of the 80s.
The same thing?
What?
Mobster and a capo regime?
Well, he's a capo mobster.
They're both mobsters.
Early 80s, Pagano became acquainted with African-American activist Al Sharpton. Oh.
Why?
In 1983, Colombo crime family mobster Michael Franzese, who's got his own podcast now, which he's a lot of stuff, arranged a meeting with Pagano, Sharpton, another mob associate who was an undercover FBI agent.
Sure, now it was. There's a whole news story on that shit if you want to see it.
Well, of course there is.
The meeting was ostensibly, that's so stupid. The meeting was ostensibly about the mob associate asking Sharpton for an introduction to boxing promoter Don King. Sure it was. However, during the meeting, the associate unsuccessfully tried to enlist Sharpton's assistance in distributing narcotics. That's not the story. After the meeting, the FBI approached Sharpton and allegedly garnered his assistance as an informant against Pagano. However, Sharpton denies this claim to this very day.
Yeah, because you don't want to look like a little snitch to his little black folk. Late 1980s, Pagano became a made man of the family. He operated in the Bronx and Manhattan and was close with the Genovese capo Quiet Dom Cirillo, who we just had a couple of episodes back. With the incarceration of Genovese soldier Joseph Joe Glitz Galizia, Pagano was promoted to capo. He then oversaw the family's numbers game and sports betting rackets in East Harlem, which were operated by the Pisacano brothers.
Nice.
Pagano also owned a business interest in the Third World Records, an African Latino music label in New York. They have everything.
Right. Good for him, right? June 1989. Pagano was indicted on charges of illegal gambling, loan sharking, extortion. This was in Westchester County and Rockland County, north of New York City. New York City. Pagano and his associates mediated disputes between trash haulers in the area. They exercised control over a waterfront construction project in Yonkers, New York. And they also conducted loan sharking activities. Pagano eventually pled guilty to criminal usury and promoting gambling.
So gambling, criminal gambling, I guess. After becoming capo, he then became the Genovese family contact in the gasoline bootlegging rackets. Originated in the 80s by a Soviet Jewish crime family led by Marat Balagula.
They're messing with the Russian mob? Oh,
apparently, and based in Brighton Beach, Brooklyn, the scam involved fake transaction of large quantities of gas and diesel that defrauded the state of New York out of hundreds of millions in excise taxes. Oh, poor New York couldn't get their gas tax.
Oh.
Jeez. When the New York Costa Nostra families discovered the scam, the Genovese and 3 other family members forced the Russian Soviet people to pay them a cut of their legal profit.
Damn right they did.
The family set up a group known as the Association to run the scam.
Pagano and his trusted aide, mobster Anthony Palumbo, represented the Genovese interest in the association. Late 1992 or early 1993, Pagano thwarted a proposed murder of a Russian mobster. Palumbo's business partner, Russian mobster Victor Zilber, he asked him to arrange the murder of a Zilber employee. Russian mobster Monia Elson. They're not even Russian names.
Victor is.
Right. They wanted to kill Russian mobster Monia Elson. When Palumbo approached Pagano for approval, Pagano immediately vetoed the hit. He said no. He was afraid that killing Elson would cause major problems with the old Russian mob.
Sure would. Well, I don't think they're Russian. No, because this is a Soviet Jewish crime family, not the Russian mob.
All right.
In the early 1990s, the FBI and the IRS set up a fake fuel company in Trenton, New Jersey as part of a Red Daisy, which was a sting operation aimed against the bootlegging ring.
That should be illegal.
February 92, a suspicious fire destroyed the company facilities. Soon after the fire, a mob associate approached the company owners and informed them that they would have to pay a mob tax to sell the bootleg gasoline. Finally, a story we haven't heard about 100 times.
Right. September 1996, Pagano and Palumbo, they were indicted on charges of defrauding the government. $77 million in tax revenues. September 1999, Pagano pled guilty to motor fuel tax evasion and was sentenced to 105 months in prison.
Oh, that's it.
As a
I like
result,
how they do 105 months to make it sound like it's huge.
He'll do.
I mean, it's still like 7 years, but
He'll
still.
do like 3. As a result of his imprisonment, Pagano lost control of many of his former rackets, including the Pisacano Bros' illegal gambling operation. 12th of May, 2007, Pagano released from federal prison.
As far as we know, he's either out or still doing some stuff.
Damn, he did the whole 7 years.
Well,
Shit.
105 months is more like 9 years, so.
Damn.
He did about 8. Frank Alphonse Funzi Thierry is our next guy. He was born Francesco Thierry. He was an Italian-American New York mobster who eventually became the front boss of the Genovese family.
Okay.
He was born February 22nd, 1904 in Castel Gandolfo, Italy, to Carmelo Tafano and Agostino Thierry, and had 2 sisters, Assunta and Antoinetta. He immigrated from Naples to New York with his family in 1911. Thierry was denied U.S. citizenship twice, living as a resident alien in Brooklyn.
He was denied?
Yeah, and he lived in a modest home in the Bath Beach section of Brooklyn with his wife and 2 granddaughters as well.
Oh,
wow. Where's his daughter?
A little modest home. His mistress, a former opera singer from Italy, lived in a house a few blocks away.
He's walking distance, baby.
Thierry claimed to be an employee of a sportswear manufacturer. 1972, after the murder of Genovese acting boss Thomas Eboli, Thierry became the boss of the old Genovese crime family, supposedly. At that time, it was speculated that Gambino crime family boss Carlo Gambino had ordered Eboli's murder because Eboli owed him $4 million.
Sure did.
According to this theory, Gambino wanted Thierry to be the boss of the Genovese crime family.
Well, however, most experts now believe that Thierry was merely a front for the actual boss, Philly Lombardo. Luigi Angelo Martino, the architect for money laundering for the Genovese family, served directly under him. Under Thierry, supposedly.
Right.
Thierry was considered a low-profile and diplomatic mobster, a good earner for the family who believed in sharing wealth with his capos and soldiers.
Fantastic.
He was convicted of armed robbery when he was age 20, but avoided further indictments until the end of his life.
Oh, wow.
Given that he was a front boss, it is unknown how much power he actually had. However, Thierry did have a reputation as an orderly and smart manager who used violence only as a last resort. That's how you should be doing it.
Right. 1980, Thierry played a key role in the assassination of Philadelphia crime family boss Angelo Bruno. And this opened Atlantic City, New Jersey to the New York crime families.
Well, that's not what did it, but...
It's like, come on, boys, let's do it. The state of Jersey had announced the introduction of legal casino gambling in Atlantic City. And the New York families, they wanted to open operations right there.
Of course it did.
However, Atlantic City belonged to Philadelphia family, and Bruno wasn't willing to share it.
I mean, come on, guy.
March of 1980, Thierry sent a message to Philadelphia capo Antonio Caponegro that the Mafia Commission would support him as boss if he assassinated old Bruno.
What Caponegro didn't know that was that the commission had no intention of sanctioning Bruno's murder. Oh, wow. What the hell are they doing then?
Wow.
March 21st, 1980, Bruno was murdered in his car on a Philadelphia street. The commission immediately summoned Caponegro to New York for a meeting. 2 weeks later, his body was discovered in New York with $20 bills stuffed in his orifices.
Oh, my.
However, the New York families did achieve access to Atlantic City. No shit, they just took out the two big guys.
Right. What pieces of cunts. Federal prosecutors eventually charged Thierry with being the head of the crime family that was involved in racketeering, extortion, and illegal gambling. January 23rd, 1981, the alien Thierry, using a wheelchair and oxygen tank, was convicted of violating the RICO Act.
The RICO Act. That damn RICO Act.
Right. He was convicted of violating the old RICO Act. At sentencing, Thierry's lawyers argued for leniency, saying that he was dying. He's a dying old man. Prosecutors told the judge it was an act, and that the judge sent Thierry to prison for 10 years. 2 months later, 29th of March, 1981, Thierry died of natural causes at Mount Sinai Hospital in New York. He was buried in St. John Cemetery in Queens.
Well, looks like that wasn't an act, was it, Judge?
All these dudes dying in prison.
Well, because they're 90 years old. He was born in 1901. He's 80 years old. 80 years old. Moving right along with Venero Frank Benny Eggs Mangano. We've heard all these guys' name, but they're not, you know. He was the underboss of the family. He was related to the Gambino crime family boss Vincent Mangano. Oh, maybe
Why did he work for them?
Philip Mangano, Lawrence Mangano, and Anthony Mangano. The nickname Benny Egg stemmed from an egg store his mother had run. Mangano was listed as a capo twice by the New Jersey Division of Game and Enforcement in 1987 exclusion order. All right, good for him, huh?
Right. During World War II, Mangano served as a bomber tail gunner with the United States Army Air Corps in Europe. Recognition of his service, the Army
Corps. They didn't even have an Air Force right now.
Right. In recognition of his service, the Army decorated Mangano with a Distinguished Flying Cross and an Air Medal with 4 oak leaf clusters and 3 battle stars.
Damn.
Mangano later joined a crew in Greenwich Village that would later belong to Vincent the Chin Gigante. Mangano oversaw his business out of the social club at 110 Thompson Street. These operations include a monopoly on window replacement in the New York City metropolitan area. Hey, man,
These dudes are like everything. He was like, what can I get into? Well, let's take advantage of the window business.
Anything that involves construction, man.
From 1978 to 90, 4 of the 5 families of New York rigged bids for 75%. We've already heard this between, that's how Gigante got busted, right?
Probably.
One of them was 75% they rigged of 191 million, or about 142 million of the window contracts awarded by the New York City Housing Authority.
Man.
Installation companies were required to make union payouts between $1 and $2 for each windows installed. 30th of May, 1990, Mangano was indicted in the Windows case along with other members of the 4 families of the New York crime families. October 19, 91, he was convicted of 1 count of extortion and a related conspiracy count in the Windows case.
Fantastic. 26th of March, 1993, Mangano was sentenced 15 years, 8 months in prison. Fined $100,000. 1997, while still in prison, Mangano was called to testify against boss Vincent Gigante. He refused, saying, "What do you want to do, shoot me?" And then he said, "Shoot me, but I'm not going to answer any questions." He can't because they shot you. He later took the witness stand, but refused to answer any questions, invoking his Fifth Amendment rights. Why would he even take the stand? 3rd of May, 2006, Mangano was transferred to a halfway house in Bedford Stuyvesant, Brooklyn. Sure.
All right. November 2nd, 2006, he was released after 13 years in prison.
Really?
He had heart disease and a macular degeneration that left him virtually blind.
Oh, shit.
He died of natural causes in Greenwich Village, August 18, 2017.
Damn, less than another 11 years?
Mangano was portrayed by Kevin Corrigan in the first and second seasons of the 2019 TV series Godfather of Harlem.
Oh, shit.
Good for you, Mangano.
Oh, moving on to Saverio Santora. He lived between 1935 and 1987. Also known as Sammy Black. New York mobster.
Sammy Black.
I don't know, but he was with the Genovese crime family who briefly served as family underboss.
Wasn't there a movie where somebody called Sonny Black?
Maybe. In the late 1970s, Santora took over as capo regime of the Antonio Buccalo Pharaoh's powerful 116th Street crew in East Harlem. Oh, Buccalo. Buccalo. Never heard that. Buccalo, have we?
I don't know.
Anyway, East Harlem section of Manhattan. Santora quickly became one of the most powerful captains in the family. The crew was involved in illegal gambling, bookmaking, loan sharking, heroin trafficking, and labor racketeering within the Carpenters Union. Oh, they got into the old wood, huh?
1981, longtime Genovese boss Phil Lombardo went into semi-retirement. Gigante and Santora were the prime candidates to succeed him as boss, being two of the most respected and influential members of the family. Lombardo made Gigante the boss and Santora the underboss. He continued as underboss of the family until his death in 1987, which you don't know why he died, but current boss, Liborio Bellomo, was considered a protege of Santora.
Oh, fantastic. Well, there's a little history on that guy.
Right.
Moving on, John Barbado. Born May 15th, 1934, apparently still alive. He's nicknamed Johnny Sausage.
Johnny Sausage.
He's a former captain in the Genovese crime family. Barbado served as an acting underboss from 2003 to 2005. A distant cousin of Genovese family, mob boss Frank Costello, and cousin to Capo Willie Moretti, was also with the Genoveses. Barbado, damn, look at this guy. Got a hell of a history, huh? Or family tree, right? Barbado had reportedly been an associate of the Genovese family since the 1940s.
1940s? What is he, 12?
6.
Right.
His criminal record included convictions of 4 counts of bookmaking in the 50s and 60s, plus a conviction of robbery in 1963.
All right. Sometime in the late 70s, he became the personal bodyguard and chauffeur for the family underboss and the Brooklyn faction leader, Venero Benny Eggs Mangano.
No shit.
After being recognized as a made member since the 70s, he was officially excluded from the state of New Jersey on August 11th, 1987. What does that mean, excluded? Like,
You gotta kick him out?
right. No longer officially recognized in the state of New Jersey. You're not allowed here, pretty much, right?
Wow.
Barbado was a distant relative to the first wife of Frank Sinatra, Nancy Barbado. Oh,
Oh,
really?
shit.
Nancy Sinatra.
I told you. Oh, Frankie was
Of course, we already knew
was
that.
in the Moobsters.
Well, this was already after he had already been to the Havana conferences and shit.
True. 2005, Barbado was indicted. Federal racketeering charges. Racketeering conspiracy, which included murder conspiracy, extortion, loan sharking, witness tampering. United States law enforcement charged him with operating criminal activities in Brooklyn section, as well as associating with then current family acting boss Dominique Quiet Dom Cirillo, and also fellow captains Lawrence Little Larry Dentico and Anthony Tico Antico. Federal and state authorities alleged that Barbado was a capo in the Genovese crime family.
The indictment alleged that he was included in a panel since the late 90s of powerful family capos on how to corrupt labor and construction unions in New York and New Jersey through bribery and extorting their locals in order to achieve influence with the companies operating in those areas. Barbado, Cirillo, and Antico were even charged with murder conspiracies as they reputedly plotted to murder an important witness who had helped building the racketeering case against them.
Yeah, they should have done it.
Right.
Following the arrest of Barbado and 3 others, New York Times reported, with these arrests, law enforcement had effectively dismantled the present leadership of the Genovese family.
No.
The United States Attorney in Brooklyn, Rosalind R. Moskoff, he said in a statement announcing the indictments of the men. Prosecutors charged that the men took over the administration of Genovese family business when their leader, Vincent Gigante, went to jail in 1997. Not true.
Well, Cirillo did.
Right.
The men, prosecutors said, continued the family's involvement in crimes designed to enrich its members, including extortion, loan sharking, and fraud. New York Daily News reported that Barbado and the others were allegedly members of the West Side Crew, a ruling panel that runs the crime family in the absence of imprisoned boss Vincent Gigante. FBI Acting Assistant Director John Clochan said at the time, "Our hope is that the indictment will serve as their retirement papers."
You think so? You can hope all you want, motherfucker.
Right.
18th of October, year 2005, Barbado entered a guilty plea, admitting to his participation in organized crime family and 2 acts of extortion conspiracy. Whoa.
Oh, he admitted to
An organized crime?
Right.
Wow. Although he admitted to membership in a crime family, he did not name the Genovese family or acknowledge being a capo. Observers of organized crime noted that there was a little precedent for this type of admission, as it was contrary to the rules that mafia members had formerly lived by. Yeah. He was sentenced to 2 to 6 years in prison, which he did for 7 months. John Barbado was released from prison at 74 on July 3rd, 2008.
he did 3 years.
Yeah, damn.
And he's still alive as we know it. That leads us to Anthony Tough Tony Federici. He's a Queens resident who was long accused of being a member of the Genovese family. He had a number of businesses and philanthropic interests in the Queens section of New York City. He was the owner of the Parkside Restaurant, a popular Italian restaurant in Corona, Queens. He later helped run a fundraiser that netted Flushing Hospital over $100,000 in donations.
Fantastic.
In the mid-'90s, Federici became under scrutiny during a New York Senate investigation into the corruption in the NYC District Council of the Carpenters and the construction of the Jacob K. Javits Convention Center in Manhattan. What the hell's up with this Javits Center?
Right.
During the investigation, Dominic Lavaca, the longtime president of the Queens-based Loco, confirmed that he was a close associate of Federici.
Uh-oh. Shouldn't have done that. 13th of March, year 2000, Federici was arrested on charges of menacing and criminal possession of a weapon after he was caught shooting at hawks from the roof of the restaurant.
It's always something that isn't associated.
Federici explained to police that he was trying to protect his champion homing pigeons. Oh, yeah. They used to keep them on the roof. I never understood that.
Well, where else are you going to keep them?
Is that like a New York thing?
Where else are you going to keep them?
Do they only do that in New York?
Oh, well, I'd just imagine if you have a big-ass backyard, you can keep them there, but
Right.
where else are you going to keep them in the damn city?
Right. He kept in cages on the roof. Federici fired twice at hawks using a 20-gauge shotgun. August 4th, year 2001, Federici's 19-year-old son, Anthony Federici Jr., was stabbed in a near-fatal attack in a Queens nightclub. Uh-oh. Don't piss off, though, daddy.
Right.
Nicholas Gambino and Thomas Muccio, reputed soldiers of the Gambino crime family, they were charged with this very crime.
Wow, they didn't start a war?
Right.
Gambino eventually pleaded guilty and received 5 years of probation. Muccio was acquitted at trial.
No.
January 26, 2004, Federici was arrested after police stopped his car in Queens and discovered he had a suspended driver's license, a set of brass knuckles, and 6 bullets.
Oh, 6 bullets.
Well, must have threw the gun out, huh?
Oh, yeah.
June 23, 2004, Federici pleaded guilty to his first felony ever, possessing the brass knuckles and 6 bullets.
Yeah, you can't have brass knuckles.
He was served a term of community service and a $700 fine.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh.
Look at this guy. He was at the soup kitchen handing out soup eating bread. 2004, February. Queensboro President Helen Marshall. They honored Federici for his service to the community. Oh, he had to, though. In attendance were many police.
I know, like, how you going to honor him?
In attendance were many police officers from the 110th precinct in Queens.
Are you serious?
2005, Nassau County, New York. Judge David Gross was charged with federal money laundering charges. The indictment was based on wiretap surveillance conducted at the Parkside Federici's restaurant. Yeah, at the Parkside, which is Federici's restaurant.
Oh.
Oh, poor Federici died tragically
Oh,
on
did
the 9th of
Federici
November.
agree to that?
Right.
I bet, huh?
Right. Federici died on November 9th, 2022, from complications caused by leukemia.
Wow. All right. Well, that's some of the past guys. Right now, we're going to get into some of the current guys. We're not going to do Laborio Barney Balomo because we already did him last episode. You want to hear about him, you can do that. But he's supposedly, since around 2016, recognized officially to be the boss.
Most likely.
Then we have street boss Michael Mickey Ragusa. He was born June 2nd, 1965. He's a former soldier in Balomo's Harlem Bronx crew. January 2002, he was indicted along with acting boss Ernest Muscarella, Capo Charles Tuzzo, members Laborio Balomo, Thomas Cafaro, Pasquale Falsetti, and associate Andrew Gigante for the infiltration of the International Longshoremen's Association.
Look at these guys. Idiots. Underboss Ernest Ernie Muscarella. He's a former acting boss and former capo of the 116th Street crew. In January 2002, Muscarella, serving as acting boss of the family, was indicted along with capo Charles Tuzzo. Members Liborio Belamo, Thomas Cafaro, Pasquale Fassetti, Michael Ragusa, and
Yes.
associate Andrew Gigante. And they did that for the infiltration of the International
In case
Tournament
anybody
Association.
forgot.
January 11, 2008, Muscarello was released from prison. April 16, 2019, he was identified as the underboss of the Genovese family during a lawfully recorded conversation between Gambino family soldier Vincent Fiore and Gambino family associate Mark Kozak.
Why these guys could discuss in Genovese, guys.
Kosaj?
Sure. The consigliere is unknown, apparently. Capo regimes for the Bronx faction starting up is Ralph the Undertaker Balsamo. He was capo with operations in the Bronx, Manhattan, and Westchester. His nickname, The Undertaker, comes from him owning funeral homes in the Bronx.
Yeah.
2007, he pled guilty to narcotics trafficking, firearms trafficking, extortion, and union-related fraud and was sentenced to 97 months.
Damn.
March 8, 2013, he was released. August 2016, he was indicted again, along with 45 other members from other crime families.
Wow. From there on, he was held in detention until trial. He was released from prison on 23rd of July in 2018. Balsamo was arrested on the 12th of April in 2022 on racketeering charges. According to an indictment unsealed on 26th of April 2022, Balsamo and 5 other co-defendants, including Capo Nicholas Calisi, operated a criminal racketeering enterprise since at least 2011. He pled guilty to racketeering on 9th of February in 2023, not too long
He
ago.
hasn't been sentenced yet then, huh? Probably. Nicholas Nicky Slash Calisi is a capo of a Bronx crew while operating in Florida. Oh, really? April 26, 2022, him and 5 other co-defendants, including Capo, Ralph Balsamo, soldiers Michael Messina and John Campanella, and associates Michael Poli and Thomas Poli, were indicted for operating a criminal racketeering enterprise and illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011.
Oh, shit.
Calisi was detained in Boca Raton. He pled guilty to racketeering February 8, 2023. On June 27, 2023, he was sentenced to serve 24 months. Oh, that's it.
He'll be out shortly, guys.
Right.
Pasquale Uncle Patty Falsetti. He was a capo of the 116th Street Crew, operations in Bronx and Manhattan. September 2014, he was sentenced to 30 months in prison for loan sharking. During in trial, former Genovese family associate Anthony Zoccalillo testified against Falsetti and claimed that he gave him a $34,000 loan for a marijuana trafficking operation.
What a bitch.
January 13, 2017, Falsetti was released from prison. July 10, 2017, Falsetti was observed by a law enforcement surveillance team, meeting with Gambino crime family capo Andrew Campos. And he did that at the Pelham Bay Diner.
All right. Couldn't they arrest him for associating with criminals? Daniel Danny Pagano. He is a capo operating from the Bronx, Westchester, Rockland, and New Jersey areas. During the 80s, he was involved in the bootlegging gasoline scheme with Russian mobsters. 2007, he was released after serving 105 months.
Damn.
July 10th, 2015, he was again sentenced to 27 months in prison on racketeering conspiracy.
What an idiot.
And then released from prison August 19th, 2017, and who knows what he's up to today.
Probably more racketeering, right?
Right.
Pasquale Patsy Perello was born in 1945. He's a capo operating in Bronx. Owns a restaurant on Arthur Avenue called Pasquale's Regaletto Restaurant. 2004, he was found guilty of loan sharking and embezzlement, along with capo Rosario Ganji. And he was sentenced to 88 months. Perello was released from prison 23rd of April 2008. August 2016, he was indicted again, along with Genovese capo Conrad Aniello and Genovese family acting capo Eugene Onofrio. Damn, that Irishman in there. The Philadelphia, and also a Philadelphia family boss, Joseph Merlino, and 42 other mobsters on gambling and extortion charges. Damn, 42 of them? I remember that story in 2016.
Yeah, May 2017, he pled guilty to 3 counts of conspiracy to commit extortion and was sentenced to 7 years in federal prison. In September, prosecutors at his trial alleged that in June 2011, he ordered 2 of his soldiers to break the kneecaps of a man who annoyed female patrons at his restaurant. He was released from prison January 19, 2022.
Hey, good for him. All right, the Manhattan faction. Oh, John Brescio, they call him Johnny Hollywood. He was a capo operating in Manhattan. He owns Lombardi's, a Manhattan-based pizzeria, which he runs with his stepson, Michael Giamarino. Him and Giamarino were denied a request to open a Lombardi's location inside of Parks Casino in Bensalem Township in Pennsylvania. Why? 2017, Brescio was identified as a capo in the Genovese family during the investigation of Angelo Ruggiero's ALJ waterfront application.
All right, then we have an acting capo of the Manhattan faction called Carmelo Carmine Pizza Polito. The Brescio crew operating in Manhattan and Queens he was a part of. June 2005, he was, along with Mario Fortunato, were arrested for the murder of Genovese Mafia associate Sabatino Lombardi. Why are they murdering peoples that are clearly family of the boss, right?
Sounds like it.
That happened in November 94 during a card game. August 16th, 2022, he was indicted along with Genovese family soldier Joseph Macario, Genovese family associate Salvatore Rubino, and Joseph Rutigliano.
Yeah.
Bonanno family capo Little Anthony Pipitone, Bonanno family soldier Vito Pipitone, Bonanno family associate Gastino Gabriel, and Nassau County Police Detective Hector Rosario.
Oh, shit.
What the hell?
Well, the indictment charged the group with racketeering, money laundering, illegal gambling, conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and others. And other charges. Federal authorities alleged the group used front businesses in Queens and Long Island to launder illegal profits. In a wiretap conversation from October 2019, Polito was caught telling an underling that he was going to put a debtor under the fucking bridge. Polito was released on $1.1 million bond.
They're like, all right, we don't like this guy anyways. Well, Conrad Ianello. Is his daddy? Must be. Nephew.
Yeah.
He's a nephew. Capo operating in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, Staten Island, Connecticut, Long Island, New Jersey, Springfield, and Florida. Damn. April 18th, 2012, he was indicted along with members of his crew and charged with illegal gambling and conspiracy. Conspiracy charge dates back to 2008 when Ianello, along with Robert Scalza and Ryan Ellis, tried to extort vendors at the annual Feast of San Gennaro in Little Italy. Conrad Ianello is related to Robert Ianello Jr., who was the nephew to Matthew Ianello and the owner of Umberto's.
Fantastic. August 2016, he was indicted along with Genovese family capo Pasquale Perello and Genovese family acting capo Eugene Onofrio, and also Philadelphia boss Joseph Merlano and 42 other mobsters on gambling and extortion charges.
Yep. All right.
Okay.
Thomas Figgy Ficarota is a capo operating from Manhattan and Brooklyn. 83, he was indicted for operating at a national burglary ring. Wow, really? The indictment stated that Ficarota was a made member of the family and paid tribute to Genovese member Thomas Greco.
Okay.
1985, he served 5 years in prison for extortion. 1986, he was convicted of RICO offense involving Local 814. Can't be messing with those unions, man.
Right.
1995, his son Tom Ficarota was identified along with other in the Javits Center Carpenters Racketeering investigation of Anthony Florino.
Son of a bitch!
Jeez.
Oh, the Brooklyn guys. Barry Joseph Nichols Nichilo.
Nichols, Brian Nichilo.
Nichilo, yeah. Joseph Nichilo, they call him Nichols, also known as Bartolomeo Nicola. He's a capo operating from Brooklyn, obviously. He began his criminal career as an associate to Genovese family capo Salvatore Sally Dogs Lombardi. July 1992, he was indicted along with De Cavalcante, crime family member, soldier Virgil LSA. Also, boss John Rigi and underboss John D'Amato for plotting the murder of De Cavalcante family acting boss Gaetano Corky Vestola. 1993, along with Virgil LSA and John Rigi, they pled guilty for plotting to murder Vestola. 3rd of November 2000, released from prison.
All right, good for him. Guess that's the only guy I remember of the Brooklyn faction. Dude just running the whole damn Brooklyn, huh? From the Queens faction, we got Anthony Romanello. He is a capo of the Queens-based Federici crew, which operates from Corona Avenue in Corona, Queens. January 2012, he pleaded guilty to illegal gambling after the cooperating witness died from a heart attack before testifying in the case.
Oh, shit.
May 3rd, 2022, Romanello was indicted with soldier Joseph Celso and family associate Luan Bexhetti were charged with extorting the owner of a Brooklyn Italian restaurant. Romanello pleaded not guilty and was released on bail.
Fantastic. Genovese's Westchester faction, Salvatore Gigante. He was capo of Westchester Gigante crew, son of former capo Mario the Shadow Gigante. June 1996, he was indicted along with his father Mario and 5 others on charges of using violence to keep control of the garbage collection business. And that was in Westchester, Orange, Rockland, Ulster, and Dutchess counties in Nyack, southwestern Connecticut, and Mawa. Where's that? Oh, in New Jersey. Also in Edison in New Jersey. July 2, 1999, released from prison.
All right, good for him. And the New Jersey faction. Silvio P. DeVita, Sicilian-born capo, operated in Essex
Nice.
County.
Look at this guy.
He's currently believed to be controlling Newark. He has prior convictions of first-degree murder, robbery, and
Currently?
several other offenses. Yeah.
Nice.
DeVita, these are the current members.
Oh,
reading
that's
about.
duh.
DeVita has also been barred from visiting any casino in New Jersey.
Oh, that's fucked up.
Oh.
Okay, it's soldiers. We'll go to New York. Elio Chinatown Albanese. He was a soldier, obviously. November 2022, he was charged along with soldier Carmine Russo for their involvement in a scheme that involved obtaining oxycodone pills. Oh, that's pure heroin there, boys. From a Midtown Manhattan doctor and having their associates sell the oxys on Staten Island. To all the little rich white kids.
Right.
No,
Vito-
Staten Island. That's
Staten Island, a bunch of, hey, what are you doing?
right. I don't know.
Guys, hey, we're walking here. Vito Alberti. October 21st, 2014, he was indicted along with Captain Charles Chucky Tuzo in New Jersey on charges of loan sharking, gambling, money laundering charges. Okay, good for him. Anthony Tico Antico. He's a former capo who was involved in labor and construction racketeering in Brooklyn and Manhattan. Former capo. Okay. 2005, he, along with capos John Barbato and Lawrence Dentico, were convicted of extortion charges. He was released from prison in 2007. March 6, 2010, he was charged again with racketeering in connection with the 2008 robbery and murder of Staten Island jeweler Louis Antonelli. Idiot. He was acquitted of murder, but found guilty of racketeering. He was released from prison June 12, 2018.
Damn, still did 10 years. Laborio T. Benny Belomo. He was a made member and first cousin of family boss Barney Belomo. That's all we know about this guy. All right, moving on. John Campanella, family soldier. April 26, 2022. He and 5 other co-defendants, including capos Ralph Balsamo and Nicholas Calizzi, soldier Michael Messina, and associates Michael Poli and Thomas Poli, they were indicted for operating a criminal racketeering enterprise of illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011. Campanella pled guilty to racketeering on the 8th February 2023. June 27th. June 27th, 2023, he was sentenced to 13 months in prison. He'll be out shortly. His father, also named John, is an associate or member of the family as well. He got off scot-free.
All right, Joseph Celso. He was a soldier on May 3rd, 2022.
Kelso?
Sure. He was indicted with capo Anthony Romanello and associate Luan Bexhetti and charged with extorting the owner of a Brooklyn Italian restaurant. He was formerly acquitted of murdering a 19-year-old man in 1993 as well. Good for him.
Did they find out who killed him?
I don't know. Christopher Jerry Chirchio. He's a alleged soldier. He was indicted April 2020, along with co-defendants Jason Kurland, Francis Smuckler, and Colombo associate Francesco Russo.
Damn, right in the beginning of the pandemic.
All right, Chirchio, well, he's probably out now, was involved in a scheme to scam lottery winners through fraudulent investments. Oh. January 8th, that's why you always remain anonymous when you win the lottery.
Right,
January 18th, 2023, he was indicted along with Gambino family members Capo Frank Calypso Camuso, soldier Louis Estudo, and associate Robert Rusty Basilis, along with 19 other defendants for a kickback scheme allegedly operated by Basilis. The indictment claimed that in 2019, Chirchio, also, who used his position as an executive RCI PLBG Inc., a plumber and sprinkler subcontractor based in Staten Island, to work along with Basilis to steal over $300,000 from developers.
Carmine Little Carm de la Cava, family soldier, was involved in a stock fraud scheme in 1990s, for which he served prison time and was released in 1994. Late 2000s, he was involved in a lawsuit involving his company, the Cava Construction, in which workers fought for fair wages.
All right.
Good for that guy.
Right. Joseph Joe D. Dente Jr., sometimes spelled Dente, with the E instead of an I.
Right.
A former capo operating in the Bronx in New Jersey. His father, Joseph Dente Sr., was a Bronx loan shark during the 70s before moving in the early 90s to Beverly Hills.
Oh, damn, he said, screw this, I'm going to Cali.
In 1996, his father died from a heart attack, and his funeral was attended by many famous Hollywood figures, including Robert De Niro,
Oh, shit.
Joe Pesci, Cher, and Kathy Moriarty.
A bunch of frickin' pedophiles.
2000, Dente Jr. and Chris Sene Temple became suspects in a police investigation after Chris's brother John was identified police as an accomplice of Christopher Rocancourt, a man who robbed homes in the Hamptons. Oh, really? December 5th, 2001, Dente Jr., along with Capo Rosario Gangi, Capo Pasquale Perello, and 70 other associates were indicted in Manhattan on racketeering charges.
Damn, 70?
The charges were brought against Dente Jr. and others after he had been revealed that an undercover NYPD detective had infiltrated Pirello's Arthur Avenue crew. April 29, 2009, he was released from federal prison. March 16, 2016, Denti Jr., along with Joseph Giardina, Ralph Paracelli Jr., and Heidi Francavella, were indicted and charged with defrauding investors and medical ventures out of $350,000.
Damn, that's the first female.
Right.
Okay, moving on. Lawrence Little Larry Dentico, former capo operating in South Jersey, Philly. Dentico was a consigliere in the late 90s through the 2000s. Then he was in prison on extortion, loan sharking, and racketeering. He was released from prison on the 12th of May, 2009. Louis DiNapoli is a soldier with his bro, Vincent, for the 116th Street crew. You got Albert Kid Blast Gallo, former capo operating in Brooklyn neighborhoods of Carroll Gardens, Red Hook, Cobble Hill, and parts of Staten Island. He was in the late 70s. Gallo and Frank Iliano transferred from the Gallo crew of the Colombo crime family to the Genovese. Wow. But that was frowned upon.
Gallo, by the way.
Right.
Gallo.
Gallo's co-capo, Iliano, he died of natural causes in the year 2014.
All right. Rosario Ross Ganji, former capo operating in Manhattan, Brooklyn, New Jersey. He was involved in extortion activities at Fulton Fish Market. He was released from prison on August 8, 2008. I guess he went to jail. John Littlejohn Giglio. He was born in 1958, also known as Johnny Bull. He's a soldier involved in loan sharking. Andrew Gigante, we already know, son of Vinny. He was indicted on extortion. That's when Vinny said, all right, I faked the whole thing.
All right. Alan Baldy Longo, former capo of Brooklyn Crews, who formerly served under Ali Shades Malangone, and he ran rackets out of the social club that he owned in Brooklyn. Longo was involved in stock fraud, white-collar crimes in Manhattan and Brooklyn. April 25th, 2001, was indicted in racketeering charges along with Colombo acting boss Alphonse Persico. Based on the work of undercover informant Michael D'Urso, Longo was convicted and sentenced to 11 years. 2010, November 24th, out free from prison.
Sure was. Joseph Joe Fish Macario was a soldier. He was indicted on August 16, 2002, along with several members of the Genovese and Bonanno families, including Genovese acting capo Carmelo Polito and Bonanno capo Anthony Pipitone.
Okay.
Alphonse Alley Shades Malangone, former capo operating in Manhattan and Brooklyn. He, during the 1990s, controlled gambling, loan sharking, waterfront rackets, and extorted the Fulton Fish Market. He also controlled several private sanitation companies in Brooklyn through Kings County Trade Waste Association and Greater New York Waste Paper Association. Malagone was arrested in 2000 along with several Genovese and Gambino family members for their activities in the private waste industry.
Well, ain't that fantastic?
Right.
Okay, James Jimmy from 8th Street, Mazzarea. He's a former capo of the Little Italy crew operating in Manhattan and Brooklyn. In the late 90s, he was involved in extorting the Mason Tenders Union. He was in prison on racketeering charges. He was released from prison December 12th, 1995.
Right.
Michael Messino, famous soldier, April 26, 2022. Him and 5 other co-defendants, including capos Ralph Balsamo and Nicholas Calisi, soldier John Campanella and associates Michael and Thomas Poli. They were indicted for operating criminal racketeering enterprise of illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011.
Since at least.
He pled guilty on February 9th, 2023 of racketeering.
Yeah, Josan Oliveri, soldier operating in the 116th Street crew under capo Louis Moscatiello. He has been involved in extorting Carpenters Union and is tied to labor racketeer Vincent DiNapoli. He was convicted of perjury and was released from Philadelphia CCM on January 13, 2011.
Oh, shit.
Another one, Eugene Rooster Onofrio from East Haven, Connecticut. He served as acting capo of the Mulberry Street crew in Manhattan's Little Italy and acting capo of the Springfield, Massachusetts crew. 2016, he was indicted along with Genovese family capos Pasquale Perello, Conrad Ianello, and Philadelphia family boss Joseph Merlino, and Springfield gangsters Ralph Santaniello and Francesco DePregola, and 40 other mobsters on gambling and extortion.
Fantastic. You got Baby Carmine Russo. He was a soldier. He was charged in November 2022 along with soldier Elio Albanese for their involvement in a scheme that involved obtaining Oxy's pills from Midtown Manhattan doctor and having their associates sell the Oxys on Staten Island.
All right.
Charles Cesano, soldier released from prison in 2009 after serving 37 months on loan sharking charges. That's who he was.
All right. The New Jersey faction. This guy's currently imprisoned, I guess. Michael Mikey Cigars Coppola.
Hey.
He's a former capo of the Fiumara Coppola crew. Although he is currently in prison, he is still seen by law enforcement and experts as a leading captain in the New Jersey faction.
Of course he is.
He's currently serving time at United States Penitentiary Atlanta for 2 counts of racketeering, and his projected release date, March 4th, 2024. He'll be out soon.
Good for him.
Right back on the streets.
Yeah. Good for that guy. Stephen DePerio, former acting capo of the Fiumara Capella crew. He was overseeing the illegal operations in the Jersey, Newark, Elizabeth Seaport before Fiumara's death in 2010, whoever that guy is. 2017, he was identified as a soldier in the Genovese family during his investigation of Mark Caruso Jr.'s ALJ's waterfront application. Anthony Tony D. Palumbo, former acting capo in New Jersey faction. Palumbo was promoted to acting boss of the Jersey faction by close ally and acting boss Daniel Leo. 2009, he was arrested and charged with racketeering and murder along with Daniel Leo and others. August 2010, he pled guilty to conspiracy murder charges. He was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and he was also released on the 22nd of November in the year 2019.
All right, good for him. Moving on to the associates before we wrap up with some snitches. Frankie Ariana Di Mattina, an associate convicted January 6th, 2014 on extortion and firearms charge and sentenced to 6 years in prison. Then we got Michael Poley, a family associate, April 26, 2022, Poley and 5 other co-defendants, including capos Ralph Balsamo, Nicholas Calisi, soldiers Michael Messina and John Campanella, and associate Thomas Poley. Brothers were indicted for operating a criminal racketeering enterprise of illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011. Poley pled guilty to racketeering on February 8, 2023.
Oh, wow. Look at his little bro. He was a family associate, Thomas Poley, April 26th in 2022. He and 5 other he and 5 other co-defendants, including capos Ralph Balsamo, Nicholas Calisi, soldiers Michael Messina and John Campanella, and associate Michael Poley. They were indicted for operating a criminal racketeering enterprise of illegal gambling and extortion since at least 2011.
2011.
He pled guilty to racketeering on September 29, 2022.
Oh, wow. Why does it take so long? Or, well, he did it before everybody else.
All right, he's like, screw this.
All right, a couple from other territories. Genovese family operates primarily in the New York City area. The main rackets are, of course, New York City. Yeah, we already know. Connecticut. The family has long operated trucking and waste hauling rackets in New Haven.
Makes sense.
2006, Genovese acting boss Matthew Matty the Horse was indicted for trash hauling. 1981, Gustav Gus Curcio and his brother were indicted for the murder of Frank Piccolo, a member of the Gambino crime family.
Okay. The little state of Massachusetts, Springfield, to be exact, has been a Genovese territory since the family's earliest days. The most influential Genovese leaders from Springfield were Salvatore Big Nose Sam Crafari, Francesco Frankie Skyball Scabelli, Adolfo Big L Bruno, and Anthony No Nickname Arellata, which turned into informant in 2009. In Worcester, Massachusetts, the most influential capos were Frank Iacone and Carlo Mastro Totaro.
All right, well, in Boston, you know they got to have a presence there, but that Irish mob's going to be like, hold on there. The New England or Patriarch crime family from Providence has long dominated the north end of Boston, but has been aligned with the Genovese family since the Prohibition era. 2010, the FBI convinced Genovese mobsters Anthony Arellata and Felix L. Tranghese to become government witnesses. They represent only the 4th and 5th Genovese made men to have cooperated with law enforcement to this day.
No shit.
The government used Arellata and Tranghese to prosecute Capo Arthur Artie Negro and his associates for the murder of Adolfo Big Al Bruno.
Oh, wow.
All right.
Oh, down in Florida. Genovese family is active in South Florida. We got family crews now. 116th Street Crew, led by Pasquale Uncle Patty Falsetti, operates in East Bronx. Greenwich Village Crew, former crew of...
we could go through and do a profile on all these, but we'd literally be reading the same thing about what we've already read about. It's no point.
Right. The Greenwich Village Crew, which was former Gigantes, which operated in Greenwich Village in Lower Manhattan. We had the Broadway Mob, operated in Manhattan. Genovese Family New Jersey faction, which the crew operates in New Jersey.
No shit. All right, moving on to government informants. Joseph Joe Cargo Valachi, probably the most famous informant ever.
Yep.
He exposed the inner workings of the American Mafia in 1963. He was active since the Castellammarese War.
Oh, you guys remember that? That was way back.
And during the early 30s as an associate of the Lucchese family. However, after the murder of Salvatore Maranzano in 31, he joined the Genovese family. He was a soldier in the crew of Anthony Strollo. 1959, Valachi was sentenced to 15 years imprisonment for narcotics involvement. He feared that crime family boss and namesake Vito ordered a murder contract him in 1962. Valachi and Genovese were both serving prison sentences for heroin trafficking. June 22nd, 1962, he murdered another prisoner in the yard whom he mistook for Joseph Di Palermo, a mafia member he believed who was tasked to kill him. Facing the death penalty, Valachi testified before the U.S. U.S. Senate Committee in 1937. 1963, he died in 1971 of a heart attack while in prison at the FCI La Tuna.
Oh, shit. Poor guy.
Does he even have a story?
Maybe I thought we did him.
No, you don't have much of a story, but we'll do him. It's not even technically, it wasn't even a part of it. Allegiance, but he was never in it. Clearly, we just did everybody that was in the damn family.
Right. Moving on. Vincent the Fish Cafaro, former capo, close associate of Tony Salerno. He was a heroin dealer before joining the Genovese family. He was a protege of Genovese high-ranking member Anthony Salerno. Cafaro was inducted into the Genovese family in 1974. He was assigned to Salerno's crew and operated out of East Harlem. For over a decade, he had influence with the New York City District Council of Carpenters. Along with Genovese and Gambino members, he received kickback payments. After fellow conspirator and Genovese capo Vincent Dianopoli was sentenced to prison, Cafaro became an even more powerful and wealthy. However, he was eventually forced to give Dianopoli some custom within the Carpenter Council. After his 1986 indictment, he wore a wire for 5 months for the FBI. In 1990, he testified against Gambino boss John Gotti, who ordered the shooting of a Carpenter Council official in 1986.
All right. Well, George Barone was a former soldier. He was allegedly a founding member of the real-life Jet Street gang. February 1954, while working as a longshoreman recruiter, Barone and a few friends caught and cornered William Torres, who was dissatisfied that he was not hired. Barone repeatedly hit Torres with a metal bar. Police charged him with felonious assault. However, it was later dropped to disorderly conduct. At a meeting with the Gambino crime family in the late 60s, it was agreed upon that the Gambino family would own the Brooklyn and Staten Island waterfronts, and that Genovese family would control the Manhattan and New Jersey waterfronts.
Oh, shit.
All right. Well, by the early 1970s, Barone was the official Genovese representative for the Genovese-owned waterfronts and was a soldier for the family. By the late 1970s, he controlled the Florida waterfront. By 79, he was sentenced to 15 years in prison for racketeering. However, he only served 7 years behind bars. Shortly after his 2001 indictment for extortion and racketeering, Barone decided to cooperate in April 2001 after being put on the shelf by the Genovese hierarchy. He testified against Gambino captain Anthony Sassone in 2003. He had participated in nearly 20 murders. 2009, he testified against Genovese capo Mikey Coppola. Barone died in December 2010 at the age of 86. Which brings us to Louis Moscatiello Sr., who was a former acting capo and soldier active in the Bronx. He was in charge of the Genovese infiltration of the drywall and construction industry. 1991, he was convicted of bribing a labor official. He took a plea deal in 2004 and cooperated with the government. He was set up to testify against Joseph Olivieri, a Genovese family soldier. However, he died in February of 2009. John J.B. Bologna, former associate. He began cooperating in 1996 as a tipster for the FBI. He's primarily active in the Springfield area and served as an associate to Genovese capo Adolfo Bruno. Bologna was sentenced to 8 years in prison. Some of his charges included murder conspiracy, illegal gambling, extortion, and racketeering. He died in prison January 17, 2017. Michael Cookie Durso, a former associate involved in loan sharking, fraud, loan sharking, and murder. All right, he wore a Rolex with a recording wire from 98 to 2001. Holy shit. After he was arrested for driving the getaway car and supplying the gun in the 1996 murder of John Borelli. By 2007, his testimony has led to over 70 convictions. March 2007, he was sentenced to 5 years probation and a $200 fine for the murder. Really? D'Urso reportedly informed on the Genovese family after he was shot in the head over a gambling debt, and his cousin Tino Lombardi was shot dead. Yeah, that'll do it. Ronaldo Ruggiero, former captain who headed the South Florida crew. It is noted that in 2003, he gave the approval to extort $1.5 million from a South Florida businessman who was held for ransom in the office of Genovese associate Francis J. O'Donnell. and a gun was held to his head. South Florida businessman was beaten up and had all of his fingers broken. One of his hands were severely damaged, and he was then threatened to pay the money by the following week, implying that he would be murdered if he failed to follow through. It was also noted that Ruggiero was active in loan sharking and was charging 40 of his customers between 52 and 156% interest. Holy shit. He was arrested in 2006 alongside 6 other Genovese members and associates, including Albert Facciano, who was 96 years old at the time, for several crimes, including extortion, armed robbery, and money laundering. He faced 120 years in prison if convicted. Of course, he cooperated with the government in February 2007 and broke his omerta by admitting his involvement with the American Mafia and that he served as a capo for the family as part of his plea deal. February 2012, he was sentenced to 14 years. However, prosecutors recommended that Ruggiero should serve half of the sentence because of his cooperation, which the judge accepted. Felix Tranghese, former capo and soldier. He was proposed for membership in the Genovese family in 1982 by Adolfo Bruno. He cooperated with the government in 2010 as a result of being shelved in the year of 2006. He admitted to receiving the message of the murder contract on Weston, Massachusetts capo Adolfo Bruno from high-ranking members of the Genovese family in New York and to delivering the message to Bruno's crew. He also admitted to carrying out extortion and several shootings on behalf of former Genovese street boss Arthur Nigro. 2011 and 12, he returned to New York to testify in 2 separate murder trials alongside Anthony Arellata. Speaking of Anthony Arellata, they call him Bingy. He was a former soldier who became a government witness in 2010 also, alongside Felix Tranghese. He admitted to his involvement in the 2003 murders of capo Adolfo Bruno and Gary Westerman, who was his brother-in-law. Jeez. He also pleaded guilty to attempted murder of New York Union boss, which occurred in 2003. Like Tranghese, he was sentenced to 4 years imprisonment, and both had relocated to Springfield after their release. So go to another mob town. Next up, Anthony Zoccalillo, former associate of the Genovese and Bonanno families. He was arrested in 2013 and charged with running an illegal gambling scheme and distributing marijuana and oxycodone. He pleaded guilty and testified against Salvatore Salicao Larca, who was a member of Ernest Muscarella's crew. And finally, to wrap this episode up and to wrap up the Genovese family, we got Anthony Tony Lodi Cardinale, former associate. In 2013, he was one out of 32 mob members and associates in a crackdown over commercial waste hauling in New York and New Jersey. Cardinale pleaded guilty in December to 2 counts in which he was charged with racketeering, conspiracy, and conspiracy to commit extortion, admitting his role in a plot to shake down a cooperating witness who owned a waste hauling company. And that, my fellow listeners, is where we end it with this episode, as well as the Genovese family, where we covered just about everybody that we can that has a story up in here. And that's all we're going to get out of the Genovese family. I think we did about all we can do here. Up next, like I said, is the Lucchese family, who is, I believe, the second oldest family, which was around since, maybe I'm wrong. Which one is it? Oh, I lied. And telling you guys the Lucchese family, we're actually going to cover the Bonanno crime family, who was the second oldest one, who's been around since the 1890s. This was Maranzano's former family, so it makes sense that Massarelli and Maranzano comes first. So Maranzano's former family, which eventually turns into the Bonanno family. This family, however, is most famous for the infiltration by FBI agent Joseph Pistone, a.k.a. Donnie Brasco, from 76 to 81. So we'll have all that, plus the Joe Bonanno, Paul Shasha, Natal Evola, Philip Rastelli, Carmine Galante, Old Man Spiro, Joseph Messino, Vincent Bassiano, Michael Mancuso, Vinny Battlemente, Michael the Nose Mancuso. Got a lot of guys that we need to cover here. Plus, like I said, Donnie Brasco will have all that coming up on the Outlaws and Gunslingers Mafia series. And with that, make sure you go check out our other 2 podcasts that we got going on right now. One of them is According to Wikipedia, where we take random Wikipedia articles and read them, kind of react to them in real time. Think of it like a reaction podcast, but to Wikipedia articles. We've already done climate change, The Napoleonic Wars. We just did one about the dodo bird. We've also done one about sexual intercourse. I think this week's episode is going to be about the Industrial Revolution. So if you guys are interested in history and good stuff like that, that's a lot of stuff that's going to be going on according to Wikipedia. And, of course, Battles of the American Civil War. We are in the middle of 1863, wrapping up 1863 with, I believe this week's episode is going to be a couple of battles right before we get into next week's episode, which is going to be the Battle of Chickamauga, which is the last big battle of 1863. That's all on the Bang Dang Network. You can find us on YouTube at Bang Dang Network and also on wherever you get your podcasts. And we will be back next week for the Bonanno Crime Family. We are the Monthly Michiganders with Bang and Dang.